I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media, and today on the Crypto Coin Show we have Leemon Baird, the co-CEO and co-founder of Hedera Hashgraph. Leemon, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
You're very welcome. It's been a wild 2023 so far in cryptocurrency, and I've seen Hedera in the news a bunch of times, and it's a blessing to have you on the show. So thank you so much for taking the time. Excited to dive into all of the recent initiatives and what Hedera has been up to in the protocol growth and just the growth of the ecosystem. So let's just start from the very top. For those who aren't familiar, and also just a little bit about how you would describe Hedera Hashgraph. Let's start there, and then we'll dive into more of the recent news.
Okay, so Hedera Hashgraph is a public ledger. In 2016, Mance Harmon and I decided to do this thing. And we had this great technology, the Hashgraph, that was very fast and secure, ABFT, all these good things. But we decided to make a public ledger with the biggest names in the world. Google and IBM and LG Electronics and big banks and big legal firms and top 10 universities in the world, which was just crazy. But in 2016, that's what Mance and I said we're going to do. And we put an amazing team of people joined us, and we have just built an amazing thing. They have done an amazing job.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I saw a bunch of huge names, and it was sort of early on before the first 2017 run, thinking like, oh, are these really big companies actually interested in this technology? And seeing some other blockchain protocols sort of going from the ground up, trying to make more of a grassroots effort. It's nice to sort of see a switch, and like now we've seen 2 cycles later that these huge companies are all over this stuff, and I think that you were really early to the game.
Yeah, we were. That's right, we've gone through so many cycles so far. This is amazing. We're in the crypto winter now, and it'll come back out of that eventually. It's been an interesting ride. Yeah,
definitely. And even though it's sort of a crypto winter, it seems like there's sort of a mini run of attention and awareness back on projects, and it looks like your team hasn't really stopped with working hard and also making big partnerships and stuff. Can you talk about some of the recent news? I think you know what I'm talking about. I've seen across news outlets all over that Hedera is making big partnerships and continuing to grow. Yeah,
so it's just amazing. It's all coming as a flood, and it's because of years of hard work, but now we're just seeing amazing things. So Dell just joined us. A good portion of the entire internet runs on Dell equipment, and so everyone knows who Dell is. They just joined, and they're very interested in their edge things. So they have equipment in retailers and on oil rigs and things. They have equipment at the edge, and they're very interested in tracking and recording and understanding and being able to optimize things at the edge, which is I'm excited about. This is a great use case. But then you have people like Atma that have already deployed it. So right now we have 500 transactions every second coming from Atma, which is just mind-boggling. This is a project from Avery Dennison, and they do stickers like barcodes and RFID stickers, and they track things. They track 20 billion things. It blows my mind. They're tracking 20 billion things. And this is in apparel, it's in food, it's in all mutably on the ledger. The ledger, the Hashgraph that Hedera runs, is keeping track of 500 new things every second. And this is stored immutably. You can search it. It has a timestamp. It's like a notary public service. A timestamp that says this is what the entire ledger agreed on, and is a cryptographic proof that this is what the entire ledger agreed on. We're doing 500 a second. So if you go to realtps.net, you can see the real TPS, and it's real TPS. When people first saw that, they said, "Oh, you must be cheating and just talking about your consensus or something, internal stuff." No, it's real. It's real users from real customers, real TPS doing real business applications. Fascinating.
Wow.
We've got we just had the highest TVL we've ever had recently. We have the highest usage, not just of the consensus service, that's like that notary public, but also of the smart contract service and of the crypto service. They're at all-time highs. So we have just been seeing an enormous flood of interest in some of the things going on with Hedera right now. And we've been releasing more reports on our treasury and on our roadmap. We went to Davos. Davos this year was interesting. Yeah, and I could tell you more about that. Just all sorts of things going on all at once.
And with that, first of all, congratulations on that Dell partnership. Yeah, I don't I think a lot of people just think, Dell, they have some computers, but no, they actually, they run a lot of the internet and a lot of these businesses, and I think that's going to be huge. On the edge cases there, I was talking about oil rigs. I can imagine, the blockchain being used way outside of finance, and people don't really think of those use cases at the beginning. So, they're huge. The markets are exponentially large. And I read into that partnership a little bit, and I saw that it says Dell is joining the Hedera Governing Council, and I'm curious about the council and what that means, and is it like a decentralized governance, or how does that sort of fit in for the companies that join into the council to work with Hedera?
It is very decentralized. We have 28 council members right now. Each of them has an equal ownership, equal control of what happens. We're going to keep building. We're planning to build to 39, and then we have term limits, and they will be rolling over. We'll have new companies coming in and new universities coming in. The whole purpose here is to have governance that you can trust. So these are big names. You know who they are. They have a reputation to protect. They're not going to do something that hurts their reputation. They are equal. You don't say, well, we have 1 million of them, but 5 of them have all the power. No, they're exactly equal. All 28 of them. Someday it'll be 39, and they'll have rolling over. They control what we do. So they control what features are going in and how the network runs. They're running nodes too. We're about to have community members also run nodes. But the governance is good governance. And I'll tell you, with all the scandals that we have been seeing in our industry recently, people are starting to say, you know what? We need a project which has good governance, has transparent governance. None of this smoke-filled rooms, people in the back room deciding what's going to happen. We don't even know who they are. No, you know exactly who they are. They publish the minutes of their meetings. You have transparent governance and good governance, and that you can trust it. Not that you would trust any one council member. I never trust any person. Don't trust anyone. But there's a bunch of them keeping tabs on each other. Checks and balances. That's what you need. Yeah.
It's great to see. And you mentioned there about not just the transactions being at an all-time high, but also the TVL, and on the DeFi side, having value locked into the protocol. I'm very curious about that, as I feel like DeFi is going to be a huge narrative coming back when people get more interested in the space. And from what I understand, Hedera working with all these large companies, it wasn't as much focused on that ground up in the DeFi decentralized exchanges in the previous cycles, and now I feel like it's going to take the world by storm and move up very quickly compared to sort of the Ethereum, Solana ecosystems that already were oversaturated at the top of the last run. Can you talk about the development of DeFi and finance specific applications on Hedera, and if that's a major focus of the dApps that are being built?
Yes, it is. This is a major focus. This is why TVL is at an all-time high and growing rapidly. So over the last couple of years, we said we're going to have native tokens. We put native tokens in. So now you can trade tokens for 1/10 of a cent. It doesn't cost $30 to transfer a token to someone. We have native tokens. We also have smart contracts that we made much faster with Smart Contracts 2.0, and they can reach out and do things with the native tokens. So when you need the intelligence of a smart contract, you have it. And it's in Solidity. It's an industry standard. But then you have the speed and the inexpensiveness of native tokens, and they work together. And so this caused a lot of interest. And so more recently, what we have seen is Saucer Swap is on Hedera and is doing great. And now Healy Swap and Bubble Swap have joined them. They're not joined them, they're competing with them. But they have multiple DeFi systems that are really doing a lot now on Hedera. And so what we see is just this exponential curve of people getting more and more interested in doing DeFi on Hedera, doing things with tokens and with NFTs. This is a real growth area. We have several areas that I'd say are really growth areas. This is one of them. You have some things around ESG and carbon credits. It's a real growth area. And you have things about tracking, like what you're seeing with Atma. We have several different real growth areas. There's even things like games, which really is just part of the NFT story. All sorts of different things going on.
No, it's fascinating that even in this sort of conditions of the market, I feel like it's potentially the beginning of something big, because people aren't really realizing, how much interest and growth is going into this yet in the mainstream. So there could be a major turning point, which could help all blockchains sort of move into the real world and gain more adoption and actually have people use the innovations that they're creating. So, and And with the DeFi applications and these decentralized exchanges, people are able to go and start creating dApps or making development on the on Hedera. And from what I understand, you guys also have a foundation, the HBAR Foundation, that helps startups move into Hedera or funds them or brings strategic advice, things like that. Can you explain what that relationship looks like and how that works? And is there a huge interest in new people starting to develop on Hedera?
Oh yeah. So we're very decentralized. The council is the governing body, but that's all it is. Mm-hmm. Then you have Hedera LLC with these 28 companies, it'll be 39, that are governing, they make the decisions. But then you have the grant giving bodies. And so the HBAR Foundation gives grants to help you build. Mm-hmm. They can give grants to big people, but they can also give grants to little people. They can give grants to small startups. They can give grants to the whole range of people building on Hedera to help you do so. And they are very interested in some of these hot topics. And DeFi, I think, is one of them. And some of the other ones I said, ESG and games and other things are big topics with them. But it isn't just the HBAR Foundation and Hedera. Then you also have the Hashgraph Association. And they give grants, and they're doing training. They're going to have certification programs. Cool stuff there. And then there's the Science Foundation, the DLT Science Foundation. So we've got a lot of different organizations. And then you have Swirlds Labs, who are doing a lot of the coding and building of the system. We have turned into a big ecosystem of separate organizations. And this is fantastic. And this was our goal from the beginning. Yes, we have to start everything in one company, and now it's spread out into a whole bunch. And so it is very decentralized. And for Hedera itself, all that's left now is the governance. Everything else has been split off into separate organizations that are truly independent. And for Hedera, it's really like a DAO. You have the on-chain voting. Every time there is a change to the code base or to pricing or to how the HBARs are used or even to adding new council members, it's on-chain. They have to digitally sign, and that's what makes it happen. Now, they also have meetings where they vote with words, but then they have to do on-game chain governance. That's where the real power is on-chain. So that's how we have decentralized. A lot of that's just come in the last year. I think we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of some of these splits. Some of them I think are maybe now slightly more than a year. So lots of interesting things going on more recently.
Wow, that's very cool. I didn't know about those other foundations and how the ecosystem is growing. And you mentioned there about the ESG and going to Davos. I'm curious on sort of what kind of use cases you see and what kind of companies you see running ESG initiatives on Hedera, because I feel like this tokenized carbon credits is one thing, but I feel like there's a lot. But I've heard a little bit about that, and I feel like with all these large companies that are partnering with Hedera, joining the council, they're very interested in ESG initiatives. So maybe you can hint a little bit about that.
You're right. So at Davos this year, it was interesting. We're in the middle of a crypto winter. There were fewer blockchains that came to Davos, but it was interesting what the tone was. It was less of the wild hype and more of here's real applications in the real world that are changing the real world. This is what we need, and this is what we're seeing. We are seeing real-world applications. Even when you say things like DeFi, typically it's been within our industry, us trading with each other and loaning crypto so you can buy crypto so that you can loan more crypto. But it's now starting to move into the real world. As you can tokenize things in your supply chain, you could use them and borrow against them and start doing DeFi in the real world. This is the theme, is that we have been insular. We've been a little startup industry. We talk to each other, and now we are actually seeping into the real world. There are fantastic real world applications being built on us as an industry, and then Hedera is just really doing well on that. And so we just have all sorts of things that will impact people for real. You said ESG. So things like carbon credits and carbon footprint is an enormous thing right now. People first of all, they want to build on a ledger that is green. We use less energy per transaction than any other major ledger. UCL, University College of London, has published 2 reports now on this. And we are something like 1,000 times better than Visa cards, even credit cards.
Wow.
We're better than all the other ledgers. And then compared to something like Ethereum, it's millions of times. It's lots of energy there. The amount of energy you do per transaction for Hedera is extremely low. So it's very green. And then we buy carbon credits. so we're carbon neutral. Let me buy some more, so we're carbon negative. So that's cool. But that's just the ledger itself being green. What's being built on top of it is more interesting. So we mentioned, say, Dell. What they're very interested in is many of these ESG things. You can be buying and selling carbon credits. You can be doing tracking of carbon footprint, which is the other half of the story, which is also important. We can be doing, why would you want to put carbon credits on a ledger, on a DLT, or a blockchain? Well, the reason is you can stamp out all kinds of fraud. There is a lot of fraud going on right now in the carbon credit industry, and people can be double selling things, and people are hard to audit them. Well, if you're putting your information through our consensus service, then it's immutably stored for the world. You can never go back and change things. And so you can then have people audit it. You can see that you're not selling the same tree twice. You can have people audit to say, oh, you're claiming you saved a forest, but that forest wasn't in danger anyway. You already owned it. Okay, so there's all kinds of fraud that we can help address this way. And then there's the Guardian system that is built on us that helps people to track their footprint, track their tokens, buy the tokens and put them in. This is all the stuff that Dell is extremely interested in, and lots of other people are too.
Well, that's incredible to hear, because I feel like when people look at the energy consumption of blockchains, they sort of and put it all in one little picture. You know, the news just says, well, Bitcoin and Ethereum use a lot of energy, so therefore crypto and blockchain altogether must be horrible for energy, right? When it's actually the opposite. From what you're saying, you know, there's actually carbon negative, and I've seen other initiatives where, even in Bitcoin as well, where, you know, they're using excess power to help power communities. And I feel like that narrative needs to be flipped on its head. And probably when these large ESG initiatives start, you know, using Hedera's technology in a more public-facing fashion, then once they're involved, then that narrative will shift.
I agree. So again, we've been such an insular industry, the real world doesn't know about us. And so they get these things of, oh, Bitcoin uses more energy than Argentina. And they say, I guess blockchains are a bad thing. Okay, you can't tar the whole industry with the same brush. It is not the case. And we are doing real things in ESG. And the world is now starting to learn about it. And that's good. We want to continue that. There's a lot of excitement around ESG right now. Even Davos, that was one of their big themes, was talking about that stuff. There's a lot of interest in this right now, so this is a good time.
Definitely, and one of my mentors who's a Davos regular had him on the show as well, and he was specifically talking about the ESG initiatives in blockchain and how he sees marketplaces more specifically. He thinks, and you touched on it there, about just the transparency and the auditing and being able to transact with carbon credits, you know, whether buying or selling or helping places, and actually prove that you know, you actually made an impact. And it's like, you're not just saying that you're double selling trees, or, you know, you actually help protect forests that didn't have anything wrong with it. So I feel like that's one of the early use cases, is creating marketplaces for people to transact with each other in a transparent, fair, and auditable way.
I agree. And also, because everything is so cheap and fast and transparent, you can create new kinds of markets that haven't existed. You can take energy and carbon credits and put them together and have a single token, so that as I'm buying my energy, I'm buying my carbon credits. There's all sorts of innovative things you can do, and we're just scratching the surface right now. This is the tip of the iceberg. We have a lot more to do.
No, I know there's a lot to do, and I'm curious if you can hint at any of those things, you know, in the 2023 roadmap, whether it's, you know, in the first half or throughout the year. Sort of, what are some of the major initiatives that you're focused on? And obviously, there's so many things to do.
Okay, so the rest of the world is focused on things like Guardian is making ESG easy, and there's a game, Ashfall, a AAA game about to come out that has Hedera tokens in it. Is very cool. Anyway, what we are focused on is making it all work well. So we are adding features that make us even more compatible with Ethereum. We've run Solidity from day one, but when it has to look at it an account, Ethereum accounts work different from ours, and now we're making it so you can look at them as if they were an Ethereum account. Why would we care about that? It makes the tools, a whole ecosystem of tools, work well with us. So we have pushed more than most ledgers on being interoperable and compatible and equivalent in ways that make those tools and your current scripts will work really well. You know, your Solidity programs, smart contracts will work really well. This is a big focus. Another big focus is that we're doing things like DREC. Oh, we need DREC. The whole industry needs it. So here is something that Hedera is working incredibly hard on. We're putting real resources in it and giving it away for free, absolutely across the industry. And that is, if you have your coins or your NFTs, how do you not lose them? You could give them to a custody service. Not your keys, not your crypto. You could keep them yourself in a hardware wallet. Hey, that's good. What if you lose it? What if your car runs over it? What if someone breaks in and steals it from you? You want to make sure that no one can steal your stuff, but you also want to make sure that you don't lose your stuff. So DREC is a way where you spread it out among helpers. They have little pieces of your secret information. And here's the most important part. Every day, your phone, behind the scenes, invisibly, is going out to each helper and saying, hey, do you still have that piece that you're supposed to have? And it isn't just multi-sig on the ledger. You don't have to do that. A single key on the ledger is fine. It's taking that single key and breaking it into pieces, which means you could do other secrets as well. How about your password manager? You could take something like 1Password and have that be spread among your helpers so that you don't never lose it. And it can be encrypted where they can't see it. You're giving them little pieces anyway that are ways that they can't see it. Shamir secret sharing. This is so important. If we want grandma to use our industry, to use blockchain or DLT, to have crypto or NFTs, it cannot be the way it is right now. You have to have a safety net. Every area of our life, we have a safety net. You've got to have a safety net. And so we're doing DREC to give grandma a safety net where it's invisible, it's easy, it's behind the scenes. She just needs to get a few helpers. And then if the worst ever happens, she can recover her assets. And if you want to do something like cold storage, you can even have it where she doesn't have the key. And anytime she wants to spend from that cold account, she has to have all the helpers helping her. This is the goal. We have a beautiful demo. We have some code written. I have multiple organizations now that want to go write libraries for this. This is not something we are owning. This is not something that we are making any money off of. It's entirely for the benefit of the community. And so I'm spending real time helping other organizations write the libraries for this, which themselves will be open source and everybody will have it. That's one thing. We're working on state proofs that will allow you to do interledger communication in some really powerful ways and sharding in some very powerful ways. We're adding all sorts of features. You can go see the Hedera improvement process, the HIP process. You can just see lots of features that people are asking for, people are debating right now, the community is debating, and eventually it'll get approved and get implemented. Tons of stuff going on this year.
Wow. No, I think what you touched there about the private key management is especially important, and there's just a huge gap from who's already involved in cryptocurrency and digital asset management and the mainstream, the other 99.95% of people that don't think that writing words on a piece of paper and trying to hide it somewhere in your house is gonna be able to store your life savings. And there's a huge disconnect of how can we make that 10x better so grandma and grandpa can come in and not have to worry, or they forget where they put their piece of paper and all of a sudden everything's gone. So thank you for working on that. And that's the infrastructure layer at the bottom, just making sure that your assets are safe so you can actually use them on the ESG marketplace or in DeFi. That's totally necessary to bring more people in, especially with all the major companies you have partnered with. They're going to have different use cases with different levels of technological awareness, and people who just aren't in crypto, tech, or finance are going to be able to utilize this technology.
Yeah, exactly. Big companies need something they can trust. This is the way to be able to trust. Today, maybe the best they can do is a custodian, which is just a horrible thing. We want to do something far better for companies. And then for just grandma, I said, or how about NFTs in games? Just some kid playing games. You spend hundreds of hours and you get all these cool NFTs of your outfit and your sword and your magic and stuff. You want to take it from game to game, and then you lose your key. You've lost hundreds of hours of work. That's really bad. Okay, so you could say, well, it's just a game, it's just a kid, it doesn't matter. No, it matters. So DREC goes across the board to make all of this real. This is what the world needs to start using this stuff in the real world.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to that coming out. And if I was to try and follow along with the updates and join the community and see how the progress is going and look for new dApps and applications that are coming out on Hedera as well, what is the best way to stay in touch and to join in the communities?
Yeah, so Hedera.com has links to lots of different things. So we have Telegram channels, and we have GitHub repos. We have all sorts of places where people are discussing things. We have the HIP discussions going on. We have our white paper. We have token economics. We just published a new update to the token economics. We continually publish updates to the roadmap. You can see all of that stuff. And Hedera.com has links to all these different things. There are links to where you can get wallets, you can get custody services, you can get exchanges that you know which exchanges use money. You can there's just links to all sorts of things there.
Mm-hmm. Sounds great, Leemon. I'll put that in the description as well. And thank you so much for all the insights into the growth of the protocol. I feel like this is a major turning point, and I'm excited. So I'm going to be joining those channels to follow along as well. And appreciate you taking the time out of the day to come and speak with everybody. All the best with all these updates in 2023 and beyond. And let's definitely follow up in the near future.
Oh, thanks. It's been great being here with you.